All right, we're going to go ahead and put this headliner in. I'm going to show you, this is the first thing I do always, is I'll take this pipe. This is stuff from Home Depot called Frost King, I think is what I use. I might use something different on this because it's different looking. But I get this Frost King pipe stuff and I put it on. It's got sticky back on it, but I also use glue as well. So it has that glue, but I use this here, this Spray Wave Fast Tack. It's really good. I go to Automotive Upholstery Supply and get these spray cans. This is really good stuff. Not like what you can get at Home Depot. I wouldn't use anything from Home Depot. I go to only do Upholstery Supply and buy this stuff. This one, or there's another one, Weldwood, but it's got to be the Upholstery Supply stuff, not the stuff you get at Home Depot. And I'll spray that on here. And I'll put this up, and it's got sticky on it already, but I double it up with that spray to make sure it stays. And then what I do is I tie the roof into these things here by leaving a little bit up on the edge like that. And what that does is that takes the noise and moves it into this bracket, you know, kind of connects these two, so that then it's really not very noisy. So you don't have to cover the whole ceiling. You could just do portions of it, but make sure that you tie it in to here. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I've got these. I'm terrible with the saw, so it's not perfect for sure. And I've got some plywood, some 3/4 inch birch. And then what I do is I cut it. This is a 30-degree angle. This is what Ed was telling me he does. And whoops. Okay. All right. So they put it in like this, and then you take some screws and then screw it in from below. So I'll have to take these curtain brackets down real quick and then just put a screw in and get it to try and get it to line up with, you can see the wood on the headliner goes down into this groove. So you don't want it to be too far back. So I cut these at 1 inch. Ends up being like 1.5 inches because you add the 30-degree angle. And want it to line up with that edge so that when I put the wood in, it can slide all the way down into this groove where my thumb is, all the way down in there, down there. I can feel it, but I can't see it. So down in there, and to make it line up good, put some screws in there to hold it in place. So when you put the headliner in, it just drops down in that groove. And what they originally had was this kind of weird, I don't know, they had plywood or some real thin plywood or something like that. But this method works better. And when this is screwed in place from underneath here, it'll hold there and then just drop the headliner into place. And then you don't get that, you know, big bow in the middle. If you don't put these in, you're going to have like a, you know, you don't want the, right? That looks like crap. That's what I did on my other one. It doesn't look that great. So, yeah. I tried using something else. I didn't even think about putting screws in from underneath. These guys are geniuses over here at OC Westy. So, you get your headliner. If you want to cut your own headliner, you can go over. They have a Ganal lumber. They have the 5-foot wide sections. But listen, for an extra little bit of money, if you go to OC Westy and they cut it for you, it's going to fit. Because if you buy the section, the 5-foot wide thing, and you cut it and you put it up there, you do it twice, you might as well just pay them to do it. Because the wood's going to cost you more, just so you know. Okay, all right, just checking. Your little, you know, smart alert here. You know, be smart about things. So that's why I went to these guys to get the headliner. All right, that's because first of all, I'm terrible at cutting wood, and they use a router to cut it, so it's nice and straight. It's not like my cuts, you know. Look at that, you know, nice and splintery, and yeah, I'm okay with that. But some of you guys might not be, and if you want to cut nice, you go to OC Westy, and they cut this stuff and it fits nice. You know, they do with a router. It takes a lot more time to do. That's why they charge what they charge. And it's still not bad for what they do. they're working on a CNC machine right now. They're going to have everything on CNC really soon. These guys are, I'm going to tell you, these guys are in their 20s. I never meet people in their 20s anymore that want to work hard like these guys do. And they're in their 20s and they do all this stuff, you know. I mean, just to make one of these tables, you think, oh, wow, that's no big deal. You know, you just cut out the table and you put the stuff on. Okay, you got to first buy the expensive materials, cut it with a router, you know, to perfect shape. Then take a router and put a groove in it, like what you see right there. That's a groove cut with a router in the side of the metal or inside of the wood. Take the router, set it up, do the groove on all the edges so this piece will fit, and it's got to be in the right place. Well, then go through and put the what is this, Formica on. You got to glue it, put it on, then take a router and clean up the Formica. Then take this edge and hopefully you put it in the right place, right? Because if it's in the wrong place, this thing's going to stick up too high and it's going to look like crap. Theirs doesn't. Cut this in here, then fit this piece. I mean, just on this table, the simplest thing there is, right? There's a ton of time they put into that. So, you know, I don't think the guys think, oh wow, I paid, you know, $12,000 for wood. It's like, Jesus, you have no much time it takes to do something like that. But that's, you know, if they did all the install, then it might be something like that. But if you buy these kits, it's very cheap in consideration, and you just have to do the little bit of finish stuff. So that's what we're going to show you in these videos. And then it's easier for them because they can CNC cut everything, which will go really fast once they have that all set up. It's almost all done right now. They're working on it right now. And this will all be CNC cut, which is basically a router that does that. And then everything will be, you know, they'll have to do just some of this stuff and do some of these pieces, you know, do the hinge recesses and all that they have, you know, which each one of those things you got to clamp on, you got to recess the hinge. I mean, it's, to do it right, it's a lot of time. So, and a lot of tools. So it's a lot of work. So anyway, sorry I elaborated on that a little bit much, but just letting you know why it's so much money for stuff like this, you know. So anyway, this thing here is going to go in here. We're going to put the headliner in. I'm going to cut them off camera because my cutting is terrible. This is my table saw. I've had this since I was 18 years old, I think. God, when did I buy this? Must have been around then. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 18 years old. Piece of junk. Barely works. I think I bought it at National Lumber, if anybody remembers them. If you go back that far, maybe, you know, you'll get it. Okay, let's get these all cut up. Both of them are at an angle, so both sides are at an angle and an angle. The first one I had to just cut the outside edge with the little circular saw over there. That one. And I just cut the outer edge with that because it didn't need to be perfect. But then I'll just use this here and just cut them both at an angle. Hey man, look at that cut there. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, look at that. Like I said, I'm not good at this. Alright, so I got this problem, these stupid screws sticking up. So what I did is I just marked where they are. Right here and right there. I was going to try and cut them off. That ain't happening. So let's try something a little easier. Alright, the closest tool I had here was this cutoff wheel. So there's a little wood burning going on, but yeah, it did the job. Let's see. I can put that in there. There we go. I shortcutted this a little bit too. I already got this one in. I was gonna screw them in, and then I thought, you know what, I got this Sign Industry #1 GE silicone. This stuff is super, I mean, it's on there permanently once you use this. This little Ack and Pucky on there and just shove it in its place. a little easier than screwing it, especially when I've got this thing on the way. I need my screw to go behind where that is. So I wasn't going to take that off, that's for sure. And then the screws kind of almost need to be back there for them to reach them. So there's that problem as well. So I thought it would be just easier. Just put a little silicone on them, throw them in place. Seems to work just fine. All right, and we got to get the foam and put it on here once we're done with that. And we'll move on to the next process. All right, then I'm going to take this thing here, lay it on top of here so I get a rough width. I'll just take my razor blade and cut that off. Well, my initial thoughts were to go with 1/2 inch, but the guys were like, nah, use the 1 inch because it seems to fit better. But you know, it's really stiff to get up in here. If you use the 1/2 inch, I think it'd be easier, but that's up to you on that. But you just put it in with foil tape like that, and you see how this thing's barely hanging in there. It was not easy. So I don't know how this thing's gonna want to fit. This thing's gonna fight me, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. I don't do this all the time, and theirs certainly looked a lot better. Actually, I had filmed it, but I don't know where the footage is. Must have deleted it or removed it or something. And so anyway, we'll try putting this thing in here like this and see if it goes. I don't know how it's gonna go down, bros. All right, so let's try number 2 or 3 or 4 or something. But I got this stuff, and I just sprayed. I remembered I forgot to do it before. Sprayed everything, the whole surface, and stuck this thing up there really good. I still think it's not going to quite work. I think you really need to have that stuff down really super flat if you're going to use the 1 inch foam. Honestly, I think I should have went with a 1/2 inch, but so I might have to trim this a little bit or something just to get it to go up in there. I don't know. I'll give it a shot again, and I'll let you guys know what happened. I can't film it at all. It takes everything I've got to get it in there. I think I need 2 people, really. You really need 2 people for this. I'm just trying to do it again. We'll try one more time, and I think it's just gonna have to wait for somebody to help me do it. Upholstery supply glue only. None of that Home Depot stuff or some of that 3M, and it ain't no good. You gotta have the good stuff. A lot of glue on both sides. Put this sucker up there. So with 2 of us, it takes 2 people really to get these in. You do this first, okay, and then you just push it up. But if what had happened is I push it up and it just feels like it's just not going to go all the way up because it was a little bit too wide. So I took 1/8 off each side. Let's see if it goes in. I'll bring it back in. All right, this is try number 2. So took 1/8 off each side, and this is where we're at now. So it's getting, this is about like that one up there looked like, and I took a little, almost 3/16 off each side. I think it's 1/8 or a little more than 1/8 off each side. So don't want to take off too much. Just got to do it, take it out, try it again, put it back in. All right, this is the next attempt. I took off almost 1/4 off of both sides. So I've taken off a 1/2 inch off both sides of this thing, and yeah, it's still too narrow. So, and it looks to me like now this is way dipped down, if you can see that, and in the front it's not. So I think what I'm going to do is take it like 1/8 in the front on both sides and do it evenly, and then I'm going to taper it back to about 1/4 in the back and just hope it does it. Hope I don't go too far. It's better to go little by little. And Ed said that he cuts everything a little bit too big because this is what you got to do, because you don't want it too small. If it's too small, you got a gap, then the wood's junk. So anyway, let's do it again. Just for you guys that think you're going to cut these yourself and you're going to get it right, you're probably going to go through 2 or 3 sheets of stuff, and by the time you get done, you could have just had these guys already pre-cut them. And it's easier, believe me, to do this way, because this whole bus is shaped like an egg. It's narrow in the back, it goes like this. I'm just over exaggerating. And trying to get the shape right first is really hard. So getting them right, patterned, made. So anyway, here's where we're at now. I've got a gap like this in the back. It's tight in the front. I don't want to take anything else off of the front. So this time I think I'm just going to take off mostly on this side. Let's look at why. So I'm not, in fact, I'm just going to do all my cutting on this side. I'm going to go from 0 out to, I think, 1/4 inch on this side. Maybe 3/16, or a little more than that, maybe 1/4 plus another 1/16, so whatever that is, I don't know, 3/8. So if I go, so look, if you look here, there's a gap here, it's tight over there, so it kind of needs to go a little bit that way. And if I cut everything off this side, then I'll be able to do that. So well, anyway, let's try it again. How many times? I don't know how many times, whatever it takes. Well, I got to tell you guys, I didn't think this was ever going to end. But yeah, I just cut off the 3/8 off this side when it looked like that. Took about 3/8 off of that side and then went to 0 up there, and there's no gaps. It's fitting up in there really nice. So when I put my aluminum trim pieces on there, I'm going to use this stuff. It's flat aluminum. Polish it up a little bit and put aluminum over the seams. I don't know what it came with on there, but that's what I'm putting on. Looks really good. Look, my other bus is done that way. And I'm going to have aluminum between the front and back, and I specifically wanted the front to be painted because that's how they were originally. So if you can see that up further, maybe a little closer, that's all painted up there. You know, Ed was like, hey man, why don't you get wood all the way up? I'm like, I already made those. And then that's the way, like the Caravel camper or Caravel Easy Camper, what's the other one, Sundial, I don't know, one of those has all the way up wood. And some of those were made with panels, remember. So the Westfalia was made with a combi bus, which is to me more desirable than holes cut the way they did those. Was kind of primitive, but they're cool. I mean, they're neat, but that's why these are worth, I think, in my opinion, a little more money. So on mine, I measured from here to there. We tried to put this in and it didn't quite fit. It's a little too wide. So I've got to take off a little bit of this, like about 1/16 off each side on these two things here. I'll just grind it down a little bit, and then on here, and I've got to take 1/4 inch off each side on this to get it, to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So I figure about 1/8 of total wiggle room would be enough to get it up in there. So I'm gonna go with 1/4 inch on each side, shove it up there, and then see if it fits. I don't know, I would maybe go with the, I've watched when they put theirs in, they put their whatever it is, ceiling panels in, they have that foam down so tight, it's perfectly level with the supports. So mine isn't, because I didn't know that beforehand. So if you put up all that stuff that I put on there, the pipe stuff and all that, make sure it's down real tight if you're going to use 1 inch, because this is really tight on this one. So when I push this up against it, it hits pretty hard. So I might have to put dents in the foam or something to get this part to go in. So I don't know how that's going to go. So we'll find out later on that, but that's why it might be a good idea to just use the 1/2 inch. And I was thinking about that in the beginning, but they used a 1 inch over there, so I went with the 1 inch. I probably, in hindsight, I probably should have went with the 1/2 inch, because I'm not that good at getting everything all perfect and laid down and smooth and all that. So if you are, then you'll probably be able to find with the 1 inch. They do it over there, and I can't. So I'm just gonna have to pay the price. So these buses have a little thing that sticks out right here on this year for the hinge, and maybe the earlier ones don't have that, I don't think. So, and I don't know if these are just universal. So I had to notch that out so that this part right here was hitting, because you see how the shape of that is, it kind of goes flat and then goes up, and this is just rounded. So I had to do that. And then we still are having a problem again with the tops of these. When I put it up there, like it's like a 1/2 inch on each side that I need to push. So I have to push up on the ceiling, you know, enough to go a whole 1/2 inch, and I don't think it's going to make it. So I might just get some of that oak, you know, 1/4 inch. Maybe I can get it a quarter, you know, have a 1/4 inch stuff, put a piece of oak down here, drill through that and glue it on there and work with it that way on mine. Because again, like if I had 1/2 inch foam on the roof, on the ceiling, you'd be able to push it up. So yeah, but with this there's just no wiggle room, so I'm not going to take it down and do it the other way. I'd rather just fix it as I go. So that's what I'm ending up with right now. So we set this thing up there. You have to hold it up all the way, and maybe we'll put a couple screws in it and look at it, I don't know, and then go from there. All right, so we're just talking about how to correct some of the stuff that, you know, it's my fault because my foam is so lumpy, it's not smooth. If they did it the way they did it smooth, they put theirs in, they fit right in there, but there's not a lot of tolerance here. So you know, for idiots like me that can't do stuff straight, you know, I gotta do stuff at other things. So I cut these, I just ripped these on the table saw. Doesn't do the greatest job, but it'll be fine. And then I'll just put these on here, and then what that's going to do too is that's going to strengthen it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put an aluminum strip on this side, because, you know, this is fine, just 2 bolts on each side on this. With all this weight that might be in here, I'm going to put 3 on, and then an aluminum strip along the edge. And the reason I want to do that is because, yeah, it's fine until you put something heavy in there and then you go on a bumpy road, you know, on a dirt road or something like that. So I think I'm going to try and do a little overkill engineering here. So I don't know what they originally came with, but I think this would probably be better. So what I'm going to do, these, just glue these on with some tight bond, clamp them, come back here in a few hours, and, well, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, and get this sucker back up in there. All right, guys, how's that? Well, you know, I got this issue, but that's fine. I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. It's up there, and it's definitely sturdy. The thing about putting that wood on there is that strengthens the whole thing up, because that wood was glued on so well. It's just like part of the other area of that tight bond glue. And the thing you want to think about is, if we put something heavy up here, you go down a bumpy road, you're going to put 10 times the amount of pressure on it. So like if yours fit right in for whatever reason, or your foam was a little shorter or whatever, you got it to fit, it might be a good idea to put like some of that. I'd put in the 1/2 inch aluminum strip along the bottom and put an extra hole here for another screw, so that, you know, if it bounces or whatever, then you got the extra strength. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want, but that's the way I would do it. Although this was fine for when they were originally made, but I had a friend of mine that made one, and it, you know, or had one in his puck, and it ended up breaking and falling down because he had too much weight in there. So I found some table leg, got that. Need to polish it. I got this aluminum strip I'm going to put up here, so we'll move on with some of that. All right, so on this, what I did is I put this up there, and then figured about, I think, 1 inch or 2 longer than you think you need. Better to go too long, too short, end up being perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to run it up behind the dome light like I did last time. And I'm just going to round that out and just put it in there like that. So I got to make them both the same. So I'm going to do that in here. do this here, like that, and just one more time here. It's definitely most of the bend is on the first part of it. Spin it like that over my knee. That'll probably work. Once I screw it into place, then I'll polish these up. Fill my holes. What I do with the holes is I just start with one. Last one I used a drill press. I'm not going to do that. It's too hot. About there. Then I'm going to take this one and just set it up next to that one and put them in the same places. I'm going to go about that far apart. Let's see if I can. I just kind of guesstimate. Maybe a little more. Right there. And this one about right there. I don't get all the stuff out that you might think, you know, with getting tape measures out and all that. I'm just gonna guess. Make them look right. So, I'll countersink those. Check my screw hole here. Yeah, that'll work. So those are the screws I want to use, so it's big enough for that. I'll countersink them real quick. Show you what that's like. Well, my good countersink tool is out somewhere where I don't want to go right now. So all I got is this dull one, so looks like that. This one does. Other one's a lot better. Alright, so I got those ones on there. Just got to put the front ones on. It's getting dark. Well, I got it in, except I haven't got the last one in. It's just getting dark on me. So you can see that looks really cool. So I can turn this light off. Maybe it looks better with it off, huh? Yeah. And you have that nice transition from the painted to the wood. You got all that there. So you can see it. What it looks like. This, the headbanger cabinet. Yeah, maybe that looks better. No light. Just whatever we got, which is not much. We got the sun's going down over there. So let's look here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Alright. That's it, guys. For this, I gotta get these videos off of here. I got other stuff to go on here, so anyway, it's getting dark. We're just gonna call this one good. I'll get the other stuff up there off camera and get on to the next thing, which is the table leg. I got that. And waiting for the stuff for the back. It's just gonna be a little while before I get another video up on this because I've got to get the brackets. They're gonna come from England, so they get shipped out. Takes a while. I have no idea how long that's going to take. Could take quite a while. So anyway, they're coming, and then I can put the rest of that seat in, and then I'll know my thicknesses of the foam. They said there might be a little bit different on this, so My foam is going to be a little bit different thickness. So I want to get all that on there first so I can know what foam to get. Anyway, so I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe.